Hi there. I'm sure by now most of you have heard that the Boy Scouts had to file Chapter 11. Okay, this happened yesterday morning, so by now it's old news. I don't really want to touch so much on the Boy Scouts filing Chapter 11. Yeah, I'm sure some bad things went on, but let's be realistic. Bad things happen in pretty much every single organization and institution. Don't believe me? Look at the amount of women that are sexually abusing young men in the school systems, but no one wants to talk about that. I want to touch on the Girl Scouts today because you see, I was curious if Girl Scouts were allowing boys in or if they were going to be allowing boys in now that the Boy Scouts are going through some issues. Now, just because they filed Chapter 11 doesn't mean that they're going to be closing down or anything like that, but it was just something I was a little curious about. So I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go over to the Girl Scouts homepage and see what I can find out. All right. Reading through their homepage, especially the second paragraph, which I will read to you, I'm going to read you the first two paragraphs on their page, made me want to lose my shit. Okay? It actually really, really got under my skin. So, and I'm sure most of you hearing this will agree too. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look-see at the Girl Scouts homepage. Obviously, in big bold letters there, it states, in a world of boys' clubs, give her one of her own. Well, that right there answers the question whether or not boys will be allowed into Girl Scouts. And it's pretty obvious the answer is no. Although your daughter likely goes to school with boys and might play Saturday morning sports and share the local playground with them, the realities of her day-to-day life are anything but the same as those of her male peers. In fact, studies show that in co-ed learning environments, boys receive more praise than girls when they call out in class. I gotta stop there. I think that's absolute fucking bullshit. I don't believe that for a minute. We are constantly being told about how boys are too hyper and too disruptive in classrooms, and they should be medicated with everything you could possibly imagine to keep them quiet because they are defective girls. Okay, so this whole thing about them getting more praise when they call out in class, nah, I don't believe it for a minute. I'll continue. Making girls less likely to raise their hands, because God forbid we admit that maybe the girls might not know the answer. Okay. Furthermore, boys are allowed to problem solve on their own during class time, which fosters independence, whereas teachers tend to step in and help girls, leading girls to question their own abilities. There's a big difference between boys and girls, and one of those differences is the ability to learn on your own. Okay? Girls tend to learn better in groups, whereas boys tend to learn better on their own. And if you really wanted to blame the teachers for coming in and not allowing these girls to learn on their own, well, you'd be blaming a lot of women, since the majority of teachers are in fact women. But I digress. I want you to listen very closely to this second paragraph, though, because this really, I almost lost my shit when I read this. I could not fucking believe that this was on the homepage of the Girl Scouts. And outside of school, more than 1 in 10 U.S. girls report being catcalled before their 11th birthday, and a whopping 85% report gender-based street harassment before they turn 17. Not only does this make girls see their worth in terms of their appearance, but it also makes them more self-conscious and cautious overall when out in public. Let that sink in for a minute. Women are constantly telling women that they should fear men, okay? That all men are predators. You can't go out in public alone without looking over your shoulder, because at any given moment, you are going to be the victim of a man who's lurking around the corner, the predator that he is, waiting to pounce at any time. Ladies, let me explain something to you. In the situation that your life were in danger, chances are it would be a man, not a fucking woman, even a woman that you know, that would come to save your ass. Okay? We got to get that out in the open, because that's the truth. Men are not predators. Are some? Yeah, I'm sure. Majority? Fuck no. But we don't want to talk about that. Now, what made me so upset about this, though, is the fact that the Girl Scouts have this on their homepage. This is like fear porn, okay? We need to show the importance on our fucking homepage of teaching girls that they need to be cautious when they're out in public because they may be catcalled, which if more than 1 in 10, what's the more than number? When I saw that, I'm thinking, well, if it's 2 or 3 or 4, why not fucking put that? Why does it have to be more than 1? Because they don't know the numbers. Let's be honest. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just throwing this out there to show the importance of women being together. Empowering women through fear. Way to go, gals. You know, it's funny. The Boy Scouts are teaching young men to do things like build fires and leadership, true leadership, mind you, not leadership through affirmative action, you know, having so many women on the board now because that's a great idea. No, the Boy Scouts are actually teaching things that benefit society. And according to this homepage of the Girl Scouts, I'm going to go ahead and say that they're just pushing a bunch of fear porn again to push the narrative that men are bad. Okay. Add that to the fact that the worlds of tech, advertising, major league sports, politics, finance, and so many other fields are still considered, quote, boys' clubs, unquote, sending not so subtle signals to girls about which industries or activities are for girls and which aren't, and the world starts to look a whole less equal for your daughter. Don't fucking explain why this happens. Don't explain that boys and girls are different. They're not equal either, but I'm not going to beat that dead horse right now. But that they do have different likes and different interests, and maybe that's the reason why there aren't as many girls in tech, major league sports. Well, that's also because they're fucking boring when girls are in them, in politics and finance and so on and so forth. The boys' clubs part, though. That stuck out to me when I read this. Before I get into what I'm about to say, if you want to finish reading it, you can go ahead and go on their homepage and read it yourself. In fact, over time, I'll probably go through the rest of their website because I'm sure I'll have plenty to bitch about. Thank you, Girl Scouts. Now back to what I was saying. This boys' clubs thing. They put it in quotes. You know, they had to fucking, well, boys' clubs. How they did. And there's a reason for that. Because there aren't very many boys' clubs. Okay? There are not. In fact, if you type in boys' clubs... Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I got to back up because I remember that now what happened. Yesterday, when I started researching this but didn't really get a chance to do a talk on it, I said, okay, Google, and said boys' clubs. And, of course, Google, good job, Google, put the apostrophe in the wrong place. But instead of correcting it, they went ahead and threw up a part of this article, this Forbes article that was, of course, written by a woman, shocker there, that says boys' clubs are toxic social networks that depend on exclusivity and access for their power. I'm not going to read the rest of it. It's right here. You can finish reading it. The reason why this stood out was because this is what came up when I said, okay, Google, and then verbally asked boys' clubs. A lot of people check their phones that way. Now, I think it's a little bit disgusting that if you say boys' clubs, this is what comes up. Boys' clubs are toxic social networks. Now, if you type in boys' clubs and put the apostrophe in the correct place, this is what you're going to end up with. And you can do this on your phone or on your computer. I'm going to admit I did screen capture it and then crop the top and bottom results because those are results for the boys and girls clubs in my area. And I'm not really wanting you guys to know exactly where I live. But if you look it up, it'll be the same thing. It'll be boys and girls clubs in your area and also in the surrounding areas, as well as Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And this is all there is. Minus what I was able to find was one golf club for boys. It was specifically for boys, but it was not exclusively for boys. So, yeah, I just thought that was interesting, to say the least, that the Girl Scouts of America are pushing this type of nonsense on young girls. But hey, let's not talk about that. Let's just focus what is happening over at the Boy Scouts. I got to end by saying, for any of you out there that thought it was okay for the girls to sue the schools because they were pissed because they had transgender athletes competing against them, not something I'm for, by the way, but I like the fact that it is kind of highlighting the differences between men and women. If you're for that, but you didn't think that it was a problem with girls being in Boy Scouts, I think you're a little bit of a hypocrite, okay? Boys need their spaces too, and it's about time we start speaking up for them in that regard. And that's that. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. I'm Sag Novotny, and this is my war on women.